Hardy stuff. And I was
Cool.
like, cool, whatevs.
Nice. Well played.
Ravi, are you endorsing a candidate live on our podcast?
This podcast endorses
Wow.
no one else but Carmilla Harris.
Who's
Camilla.
Carmilla? It's
Carmilla.
Kamala. It's Kamala.
Carmilla.
Kamala. We actually have an aunt named Auntie
Can you
Kamala.
switch over to the chat just so
I
we
thought it was
can see
Camila.
Thank you.
I don't know.
Camilla?
All right,
it's
we're
Camilla.
going to do this shit for real.
All right, let's do it.
All right, here we
Do
go.
it live.
I'm going to put this down.
Wow.
I don't have my computer today because it broke.
Wow.
Well, we already kind of went over the outline.
Good thing D&D is in person today.
But here we go. Welcome to our 100th episode of Was It Good? I'm your host, Ravi. And as always, for the 100th time, I'm joined by Krisha and Arjuna, my two brothers. Somehow, over the course of many, many years, many, many moons, many, many sunsets on the beach, we have made it to 100 episodes. We decided to do something a little bit special and kind of pick movies each of us need to watch that may or may not necessarily be in each other's wheelhouse. We're going to go around real quick and kind of list them off. Arjuna, what did we make you watch?
I had to watch Midsommar.
And this is because Arjuna is not afraid, but like many people, does not particularly enjoy horror or psychological thrillers. Krishna, what did we make you watch?
We maybe watched Star Trek 4, A Voyage Home.
A Voyage Home. This is the one, by the way, with the whales. We made Christian watch this because he's not the biggest Star Trek fan. He is a sci-fi fan, but not the biggest Star Trek fan.
I can't even consider myself a sci-fi fan at this point.
And then they thankfully made me watch Mad Max Fury Road, the 2015 great film.
Wait, it was 2015?
2015
Yeah.
is when it
Wow.
came out. It's
Wow.
only
I thought
five.
It was longer.
It was only. It's only 5 years. A
What's
film
happened?
that I put off for the longest time.
I think it was a long con.
It was a very long con, but I'm pretty sure of all three of us, I'll call it now, I probably enjoyed myself the most. So I'm glad that you all made me watch that film. So, but anyway, we're gonna jump into this. We're also gonna talk a little bit of Star Trek Lower Decks, and if we have time, talk about theories, of course, about Lovecraft Country.
Game.
That was my
theories.
expanded
Yeah.
intro.
I mean, that was great.
Thank you.
Oh, man, I'm so glad Aaron's watching this. Hasn't Aaron been trying to get you to watch Mad Max for
15 years.
For 15
years. No,
Yeah.
it's not 15 because it's only out for 5.
To once again go ahead and just plug when Chris is referring watch, we are live on twitch.tv/wasitgood. For our listeners, be sure you can definitely tune in, have fun with us. We record every Monday night on that channel, and then sometime other part of the week whenever we're not busy. But yes, Aaron, who's watching us on Twitch, Lag and Cheese, about fucking time, he says, and yes, it was about fucking time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think to kind of start things off, I guess I'll go because I feel like my experience was just fun, entertaining.
First of all, why has
Sure.
it taken you 5 years to
He has
watch?
to explain.
Yes.
And one
Yep.
of the best action movies ever made.
It's actually pretty simple. And I think you, Christian, would understand this. The hype train around the film. There was so much hype before the film actually got into theaters, and I had every intent to go see it in theaters. I don't remember what happened or where my life was at that point, but for whatever reason, I wasn't able to go see it in theaters. And then it was one of those things where it kind of got put off. But people were still kind of, going at me, bro. They were like hitting me up going, you need to watch it, and it became one of those like nagging things to the point where I was like, I'm not interested in seeing this. And jumping over to our chat real quick, Ravi is a dick. You bet your ass I am a dick, and I'm proud of it.
He said that he's saying you're a dick. The reason you didn't want to go see it is because Aaron liked it.
I would say that is the main
Spite.
reason. It wasn't spite. It was solely because, I'm going to keep saying this, even though it's clearly one person. The hype train was big.
So here's how we know you're lying, Rafi. Because there was actually very little hype around that movie when it came out. In fact, the only reason I went to go see it in theaters was on a whim. I was with some friends, and we were like, let's just go check this out. We like Tom Hardy. We had never seen any of the other Mad Maxes.
I think I told you to go see it.
You might have.
I
yeah,
saw
you probably did.
I saw it pretty early and I was like, I think I told you and Mom and Dad. And I told maybe part of the hype too was like in our family text at the time. I was like, oh, Mad Max, it's really good. Mom and Dad grew up when the originals came out in the 80s, so they're like, oh.
With the racist, bigoted idiot Mel Gibson.
Yes, exactly. So they're like, oh, yeah, we'll check this out. And then I think they saw it and you saw it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't. We just saw it like we didn't even. We just like we were bored, right? So me, Dan, and some other people were like, let's go see this movie. So, I'm glad I saw it.
Which Dan?
Dan.
So for our listeners and watchers that don't know, there's this recurring joke we have in real life with Krishna, that he only befriends people named Dan.
Yeah.
And we always refer to which Dan in his life.
Yeah.
You haven't had a new Dan yet. We need a new Dan to kind of enter your life. And
My current Dan is doing just fine.
Sure.
But back to the movie once again. Yeah, it's kind of. I kind of kicked myself in the butt multiple times because I don't know if you guys remember this. The movie was also re-released in theaters. There was a second opportunity to go and see the film.
And you didn't take it.
I didn't take it, and I hate that. And I also hate the fact that there will probably honestly not be another reason. Like, if you look up Mad Max, the original trilogy, three. There are 3 films.
Yes.
There has been no real discussion about a sequel. Like,
That is not true.
really?
There's been a lot of discussion.
Right,
about
but nothing
sequels.
that's landed.
Well, I mean, so there's actually 2 scripts out there. He wrote 2 sequels, one that focuses on Max, and one that focuses on Furiosa, who is the Charlize Theron character. And he's had both of those. He wanted to shoot them. The production of the movie, if you're not aware, was long. I think they
Contentious.
I think they filmed the movie 2 years before, like maybe 2013, and it was a long edit. It was a long filming process. Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron pretty much to this day still don't really like each other because of the filming experience. I know they've softened their stances a little bit, but it was one of those productions where if you were in it at the time, you're like, this movie's never going to come out, or when it does come out, it's going to suck. And it actually turned out to be an amazing movie. But there has been discussions, but because I think it was so contentious, it took a lot of elements for it to come together. It's been so hard to do.
Yeah, so with that, I doubt we'll see a sequel.
Well, you do have an opportunity. You, Ravi,
Yes.
we live in an age where you could rent out a theater and have a party, and you show the movie on the big screen.
Do you think
And it's cheaper now than it's ever been.
Do you think because of COVID I could get a really good rate on a whole theater for myself?
Ravi, I think you could rent out the entire theater, like all 20 screens, for the price of 2 theaters back in the day.
Buy
2
2, get 18 free.
Yeah.
And then just
That's how
have
bad it
20 screenings of Mad Max for your road going. I must say though, like you said, the action is insane. The continual shots are amazing. The music is great.
The props.
The lack of CGI used is just holy fuck. Like, I knew that before obviously seeing it. Like, I knew it was a very practical heavy film. Very little CG was used, and the CG that was used was actually done not in a shiny, disgusting way.
You have to like look for it.
You have to like really look for it,
Yeah.
which
Well,
is which
Except
is
for the
interesting.
storm. The storm is the only like.
Yeah.
What was your favorite part of the movie?
Ooh, man, that's so many.
Oh, that's a tricky one.
I know what my favorite part is.
What's yours?
So, I think it's when they're getting ready for that first gun battle. So they're driving, and I think they're about to. It's the song. It's the song, and I forget the name of the song, but it's the song that does it for me. I have it on. I'm gonna look it up real quick. But yeah.
What's your favorite part while he's doing that?
Yeah.
What is my favorite part of that movie? I think it's probably the whole first act. Tom Hardy doesn't say almost any words in the entire movie.
I think that is what kind of draws me into it, is the fact that there's just so little dialogue. It's one of those films where it's very action driven, and it's difficult to do in this day and age where you need to have both good visuals, both good dialogue to keep a viewer engaged. I'd be curious, similar to, I guess not like Wolverine, but like, is there a black and white version where it's just all music and no dialogue? And do you still kind of feel what's happening, understand what's happening? That would be interesting.
You totally could. You totally could. It's such a great experience. The name of the song, "Brothers in Arms."
Oh.
So that's the name of the one of the songs in the original soundtrack,
Mhm.
and it's just during that song, and they're like they're getting ready to like fight, and then they actually do like fight, and the action's incredible. And
Do you remember Nicholas Holt is in this movie?
Yep.
yes.
Beast.
It's like
Fantastic.
is the weird pale guy, and he
Yeah.
like sacrifices himself. He has a great arc in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Like he's really just trying to like please the what's his name, the main guy,
Fuck face.
Armageddon.
No. Like he wants a glorious death, right?
Yeah.
So he can go to the gates of Valhalla.
Yeah, and then he
Great
like
Viking.
teams up with them, and then he sacrifices himself at the end. It's really a great arc, honestly.
Yeah. Well cast movie.
Really, really good.
Yeah.
So shifting gears here in terms of obviously a great experience. I know Krishna's story, so I'm going to save that to the end. Arjuna, I think your movie experience when it comes to psychological horrors and gore films has been interesting over the years.
Sure.
One of the more interesting experiments that we did with Arjuna, actually live here on this Twitch channel, twitch.tv/wasitgood, was we stuck a heart rate monitor to Arjuna and had him watch It, the new 2000, what was it?
17?
17 It film.
18?
And we had him sit here in the dark. Sadly, we didn't have him watch it by himself, and I think we were getting more interesting heart rate levels.
That's right. Thad was.
Thad was watching it with you, but we've done some fun things there
That hates
with
clowns,
scary
though,
films.
so that's why I think
That's
Thad
why
was
we did
also
it. That's why we
terrified.
also
we wanted to
added Thad.
compare two heart rates. But what did you? What was your thought of Midsummer, which is
Midsommar.
which is not a, correct me if I'm wrong. It's not a typical gore fest, right? It's more of a psychological, or am I getting it flipped?
No, it's definitely more of a I wouldn't straight up. It's weird, right? Because when you think of horror, when I think of horror movies, I think of that very strict formula of you have a group of people, they're in some type of setting, they get picked off one by one, and it's some type of force or person that picks them off, and they all die, right? That to me is a horror movie, and it's almost like a subgenre. But then you have like the overall horror, right, which almost becomes thriller, like the thriller genre. And this is more of a thriller, right? And thrillers have a lot of those horror elements where you have a group of people, many of them die, or whatever, and that's Midsommar kind of follows that. It is a thriller, and the best horror movies to me don't use a ton of gore and like shock value, right? Think of the later Saw movies. That's just all about the traps and how much fake blood and like
How many limbs?
grossness you could do. Now, don't get me wrong. Midsommar has some very visually disturbing scenes. And I don't want to spoil it for anyone that hasn't seen it. I know you guys have not seen it at this table, and I don't want to spoil it maybe for those who haven't seen it out there, but it is actually more of a visually disturbing movie than I thought it would be. And I wouldn't say there's necessarily any big, like, scare jumps, like, where I, like, jumped out of my seat or anything, but there's definitely parts, and it's coming. That's the thing. Like, they set it up, and it's coming, and I was, there was a part where it's like, wait a second, this is arranged like this, and I was like, oh,
Oh dear.
and then it happens.
So we got the question has to be asked. What was the ratio or the percentage of time where you spent going like this, like covering your ears and your eyes?
So the movie's longer than I thought. It's 2.5 hours.
Jesus.
It's a long movie.
That's a lot of stress.
But the thing is, there's not too many stressful moments in the movie.
Interesting.
Because I think it deals with a lot of kind of dark material, especially with its main character and what she's going through throughout the entire movie. And it slowly becomes creepy. It kind of slowly creeps in because, for those who are unfamiliar with the premise of the movie, it's these group of kind of post-grad students that go into Europe, essentially, into like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a covenant or like an isolated group, right? That kind of live out in nature, and they join the
Midsummer. Is it just so someone's asking what movie?
Yes, it's Midsommar.
Midsommar? Midsummer?
They kind of it's kind of spelled like Somar.
Isn't it? Is it a Swedish tradition or?
I think it's like a Swedish group that they kind of join, and like some of the students are anthropology students, and they're kind of studying their culture.
So it's like the is it the European equivalent to the Amish?
I wouldn't say.
Like,
I
do
wouldn't
they
say
have
they're-
technology or anything?
They don't
like
have a
that?
lot of. They don't have a lot of tech there. No, like but I wouldn't say they're necessarily Amish. It's kind of like a weird cult.
So it's a cult,
Yeah.
like the Jim Jones
A
cult.
Swedish commune.
Swedish commune. There we
Yes.
go. Thank you.
But yeah, it's definitely an interesting movie. Very visual. A lot of drugs. They do a lot.
Ooh,
they do
now
a
I want to
lot-
watch
They
it.
do a lot of drugs in the movie, and they do a lot of visual representation of those drugs.
Real quick, sorry to cut you off. Krisha, do you have any desire to see this film?
A little bit.
Okay, then never. I was gonna ask you to just rip into it because I want to see. I want to know what you put yourself through, and I also want to know when did you watch this film?
It was like 10 o'clock at night
When? Like how many days ago?
last night.
Last night.
Literally last night.
So have you slept?
Yeah, I slept. I definitely slept.
Did you have dreams of the film? Did you wake up in the middle of the night
You know,
and look
I
in the
was
dark?
trying to remember. I don't remember any of my dreams last night.
That's not good.
So I don't think I did, and I don't think I did.
Okay.
But maybe I did.
But were there any moments? Because I remember, and this is gonna sound hilarious, but I remember. I mean, when you compare Midsummer to like It, they're two different types of horror, right?
Absolutely.
It is gore fest and jumping out of the shadows and that type of stuff.
I wouldn't say it is a super gore fest.
Yeah.
though.
No, it's super, but there is definitely some grotesque things happening.
But there's definitely
Sure.
grotesque things that happen
In Midsummer?
In Midsummer.
So, but I guess the question is like, so with It, after I saw that and it was nighttime, I'm laying in bed, I'm looking at the shadows, being like, when's the clown gonna jump out of the shadows? Were you after Midsummer laying in bed, looking around the shadows, being like, what's gonna jump out and get me?
No, because I think I'd be more freaked out if I went to a commune like area.
So, Arjuna,
if-
for Christmas, the family is going to Sweden, all paid trip
I'm skipping that.
to the
Just
cult.
because, especially in this movie, it's like there's a lot of red flags that you see as a viewer, right? In terms of like, you guys should leave this place. It's not cool. And I was just watching the movie. I'm like, at what point would I have left? And it's like
As
very
soon as you got
as soon as I got there, where there's like this person like doing this weird kind of scream, I'm like, I'm out. I'm out at that point. They have like a bear in a cage. And then there is one point I think
they're
like
role playing.
either halfway or like a third into the movie that's part because they go there. One of their friends is a exchange student from this commune and wanted to invited them essentially. And it's like, we're doing the special festival. It's only done once every 90 years. I want you guys to come and see it. And there's like one part in the festival that happens, and all the people who aren't from the commune freak the fuck out because and I don't want to spoil it.
Do they eat a dead pig?
Do you want me to say it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So in this commune, they view life as seasons, and every season is 18 years. Once you get to the end of that fourth and final season, 72, you commit suicide by jumping off a giant cliff that's hundreds of feet while they all stand below. So it's an old woman and an old man, and this is one of the most visually disturbing scenes. They jump, and you see them jump. The woman lands on a rock, and her face is completely caved in.
Nice.
The second guy jumps, lands on his ankles, is still alive,
Oh.
and is screaming in pain. There's another man that comes up with a mallet and then bashes his face in and gives turns to a few other people as they bash his face in. They show the visualization of like the face just smushed in. It is disgusting.
Fantastic.
How I watched that was I put a pillow up and kind of just watched like the edges of the TV because it was so, to me at least, visually disturbing. I was like, oh my god.
And then I
That
think
reminds me of the Eskimo tradition.
And that's the part. And that's the part where I was like, if that happened, if I was there right there and then, I would immediately bolt.
But you're not
and
an
most of the
anthropologist.
So the anthropologist characters don't. There's a couple who's from London. They freak out the most, and then they leave.
They
do
do.
they live?
No.
Damn. Will they come back?
I'll say this.
Fuck.
All of the characters from the outside that were invited, besides the main character, Florence Pugh, are dead by the end.
That makes sense.
And that's part of their tradition.
bring outsiders in and kill them.
Yeah, they
And eat
sacrifice.
them.
They sacrifice 9 people every 90 years to kind of cleanse their sins.
That doesn't sound that bad. That sounds like you're being culturally insensitive. Okay, you got to give it a chance.
Oh boy.
But there's some really like they gut a bear and they show the like intestines of the bear. They actually stuff like the male lead into the bear skin at the end, and then they put him into a house with the other 8 sacrifices and burn them all. Most of them are dead at that point, but like 2 of them are. So they bring in 4 outsiders who they kill, and are dead. One of them had their like face taken off. Another was just like bashed in the head with a mallet. Then they had the 4 people that volunteered to sacrifice themselves, including 2 from the commune, and they're just kind of sitting there peacefully, and they're like waiting to like be burned, and then they're all like yeah, and then they like get lit on fire, and then they start screaming because they're like, oh, this shit hurts, and then they all burn.
Yeah, wow. You know, that sounds like a fun family movie. You should show Mom. You should show Mom that. Good times. Well,
Mom said she actually used to like horror movies until she got pregnant, but she couldn't do horror movies anymore,
that kind of makes sense.
which is interesting enough.
I mean, horror movies put you through a stress response.
Yeah.
Last thing you want to do when you're pregnant is be more stressed than you already are.
Yeah, it is a really. I enjoy the movie. It's definitely not for everyone. It's definitely long, and it's definitely I think a lot of people would classify it as slow. There's actually a 3-hour director's cut that's available on Apple TV, which I think would be.
You got to watch it.
I probably will maybe at some
Really?
point. I actually did
That's
like
impressive.
I did like the movie.
Yeah.
And I thought it was well done, and I'm glad I watched it.
Did it get you more into horror? Do you think you'll give more horror a chance?
I think I'm more into these types of horror movies, right? Because it reminds me of like I think the interesting, well done type of horror thriller movies. It kind of reminds me of like they're not exact comparisons, but another like well done kind of thriller movie is 10 Cloverfield Lane, which is I thought a really well done thriller. The first Saw is a really good movie.
Sure.
The first Paranormal Activity, it's simple but like well done. The Blair Witch Project, you know what I mean? Kind of stuff that takes because I mean, Midsommar doesn't change the genre in any way or try and do anything different, but those other types of movies, trying with kind of like the point of view camera and then maybe a horror movie kind of set in one place, just really well done movies. This was a really well done movie.
Someone at work told me that they would classify Midsummer as art. They were like, it's art.
It's very visual, and there's a lot of visual cues. And I watched it with Sahara, and she's seen it before.
Who's Sahara?
She's my girlfriend.
Yes.
I watched it with Sahara, and it was funny because she was like picking up on stuff, and she kind of explained it to me after, like, oh, like, did you notice this? Did you notice that? And so they really, I'm a big fan of movies that really think out their cinematography and everything, right? The dialogue, the cinematography, the music, everything has a meaning and a place and a purpose within the context of the movie. And when it's really well done, and it's not necessarily obvious, but it's not too subtle where you don't miss it. It's that kind of has that right balance, and I feel like Midsommar did a really nice job of kind of balancing that out, and also giving reward to those who rewatch it.
Cool.
That makes good cinema for me.
Hmm.
So yeah, I liked it.
Nice.
And
That's surprising.
I'm not gonna watch a movie like Midsommar like every night or every week.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely open to those types of movies.
All right, I'll keep that in mind for your birthday.
What?
Huh? I want to recreate a movie as a live experience.
So speaking of movies,
Yes.
Krishna, you watched a movie.
I was forced to.
We were all forced to.
You guys held a gun to my head.
We did not hold a gun to
You
your
might
head.
as well have.
You had to watch a Star Trek movie.
Yes. Star Trek IV: A Voyage Home.
And I'm just going to ask you right off the bat. Is it the greatest Star Trek movie you ever watched, or is it the greatest sci-fi movie you've ever watched? Those are your two options. You can't pick anything else.
Okay, so from the very get-go, it's going to be...
Horseshit?
Actually, that's not even true, because I think one of the first opening scenes is there's a trial. They're like, we're gonna bring in the crew of the Enterprise to stand trial, and they make it sound like there's a Klingon there, and he's like, they killed us, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. I haven't seen any of the Star Trek movies. I haven't seen the first 3, so I don't know what led up to this, this preamble to a trial. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. There's some stakes there. cut to the Enterprise. They're on a Klingon ship, and they're coming back to Earth to stand trial. And lo and behold, a probe enters, the solar system or whatever, wherever it is, and basically starts evaporating all of Earth's water. And they figure out very quickly that because there are no more humpback whales, they've gone extinct because of the cruelty of mankind back in the 20th century.
So you're saying this is a...
He's not done yet.
My main issue is right here in the first 20 minutes.
I just wanted to point out...
Spock has recently been resurrected, right,
Yeah.
from the last movie. What do you want to say?
When you were doing this, for those who are watching, Chris was kind of doing the live long and prosper.
No, I'm not doing
You
that.
were.
No.
I saw your hands. You're like this.
No, Mike.
You were like this,
I
Christian.
don't want to.
For those watching, Christian was doing this.
I was not. Spock, right, supposed to be the smartest character in the universe. Spock decides, oh no, this probe is destroying the Earth. No, we're not gonna figure out how to interact with the probe to stop doing that, right? We're not gonna figure out how to evacuate people off of Earth. His first thought is we have to travel back in time. Take 2 humpback whales from the 20th century, bring them back to the present moment, put them in Earth's oceans so that the probe can communicate with the humpback whales and stop destroying Earth and then leave. That's his first thought. And Kirk is like, okay, let's do it.
Well, I don't see anything wrong with it. Well,
like
Christian,
you have so many resources, you have so many people, you have all that brain power, and you come up with the most complicated, unnecessary, I understand that they only have so much time, right? But how can the most effective way to treat this problem be time travel? Like right off the bat in this Klingon ship. That I don't even know how they got it. Apparently that's from the last movie, I would assume.
Well, how else were they gonna get humpback whales?
Why is getting humpback whales? Why can't they 1 destroy the probe? 2
Because
it's super powerful.
Why
The
can't they figure out a way to interact with the probe? Why can't they recreate the whale sounds and talk to the probe?
They need the whales. They need physical. They don't understand the language. The language is too
Unbelievable.
complicated.
That right there just seems like a giant leap of faith. And they did it in 10 minutes. They come up with that plan in 10 minutes. That we have to travel.
So what, you wanted it to be a 30-minute plan?
Kirk was like, okay, it's time to time warp. I'm like, they have time warp? What is this, Power Rangers?
We're going to be talking about Lower Decks in a little bit, but I think they said it perfectly in the Lower Decks episode. It's a movie. They have a higher budget. They can do cooler movie things.
They don't have a higher budget because 75% of this movie takes place in San Francisco in 1986. To me, clearly, the movie didn't have a whole lot of money because that's why most of the movie takes place not in space, so they don't have to worry about props and special effects.
Maybe they just wanted a more personal adventure after having such big epic pieces with the Wrath of Khan and
the Wrath of Khan.
The Wrath.
So we got Toby. What did you say? Toby Maguire.
Toby Maguire. I don't know. Maguire. So they end up in I assume 86 San Francisco.
The year that they filmed the movie.
The year that they filmed, I assume, and they proceed to mess with time on an epic level. They bring back a woman, a humpback whale biologist, to the present day. People see the spaceship. They see their Klingon ship. The Dr. McCoy cures a woman of her kidney issues by giving her a thing. There's just so many issues with the time fabric of time travel. I understand this was made back in the day. I understand that Star Trek doesn't always take itself very seriously. I understand, in fact, that they destroy several conventions of sci-fi several times an episode. I understand all that. It just blows my mind because I'm also currently watching the greatest time travel show ever made, Dark. So to go from watching Dark, that handles time travel about as well as you can, to watching A Voyage from Home, or A Voyage Home, whatever it's called, Star Trek 4, where they basically take time travel and shit on it as hard as you can.
As a friend of the pod just left a comment, they wanted to save the whales. This was a passion project for Nimoy.
I understand that. He wrote this.
So
movie,
why don't you?
And that it was all about environmentalism. That doesn't let it off the
Breaking
hook.
news
It's a terrible
here
movie.
on the Was It Good 100th episode. Christian Ramgopal does not care about the environment.
I hate
He doesn't
whales.
care about the whales.
I hate the fucking whales.
We need to get a very simple shirt for Christian. It's gonna be white, and then in just really simple font, it's just gonna say "fuck the whales," and it's gonna have just a dead whale on it.
No, I want a dead Spock on Hell. Actually, I can't tell you that.
Wow.
Because he is dead. No, that's actually a terrible thing. I take that back. Ooh. The movie is awful. How did it get an 81% on Rotten Tomatoes? How?
Rotten Tomatoes is just an arbitrary thing that someone could be just have been tricking you for years and years, like me. I created it.
I mean, it's the most mind-blowing part is that I went from having to watch that to watching Lower Decks, where the episode is about a fake movie on their holodeck.
Which
And
is
that
actually is just
episode,
funny.
that movie was better. That movie in the 23 episode of Lower Decks was better
23 minutes.
than the 2-hour piece of shit.
You
that
also
I
have
had
to, you know, there's a lot of movies, and we don't talk about this enough on this podcast, but
that are
there's
bad.
There's a lot of movies and TV shows that are made for a very specific time.
Yeah,
and
I get that.
I think you can make the argument a lot of these Star Trek movies are very timely. They're very much made for the time that
Can
they
you
were made
honestly
for.
sit here and tell me that's a good movie in 1986?
I don't know. I wasn't alive in 19. I don't know what came out in 1986. I don't know what
That's a good
cinema
point.
was like in 1986.
We have to look up movies. You're right.
I
you're right.
cannot answer that.
I'm gonna look up movies. I'm gonna look up sci-fi movies that came out in 1986.
But it's hard to. It's also hard to tell because remember, tastes and everything are different. We talked about this a few weeks ago with Spider-Man 3, right?
I haven't heard of
Spider-Man
half these
3
movies.
was panned in 2007.
Aliens
Okay.
came out, and that's a great movie.
But that's the exception to the rule, right?
No.
You know, it's considered a classic. It's considered one of the better movies that's ever been made.
Yes.
And how many of those do you have that come out every year? A handful.
I understand that it's
So-
it's harder to make
Right.
good movies than it is bad movies. I get that. But this movie is epically bad.
Either
Epically
way,
bad in 2020, according to Christian Ramgopal. I hate whales.
yes.
No, I think
You hate whales, Christian. Just admit it.
you
hate
you're
it.
doing a disservice.
So-
I think this was bad back then. You're right. I can't confirm. And they did give it an 81%. It makes me question 1986 a whole lot. And I will not be time traveling back to 1986 to figure it out.
That just seems like it's a missed opportunity on you.
What do you mean?
Either
Ooh.
way,
Can I just- can I just-
the one thing that's interesting that I want to throw out there in terms of the Star Trek time travel history and so forth. So they went back to 1986, obviously, to San
Save the
Francisco
whales, yeah.
to save the whales. About 10 years later, a group from the Voyager goes back in time as well to 10 years later from that point to 1996, where they go to Los Angeles to try and stop some time travel bullshit as well. So time travel happens all the time, man.
Sure.
It's a great catalyst, and it's very.
Wait,
very
what were we talking
important.
about?
Time travel.
Time travel in the
In
Star
general?
Trek universe.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean,
Uh,
I don't watch Star Trek, so I can't
you
comment.
do. You watch Lower Decks. That's part of Star Trek. You are officially.
They haven't officially
They
done time
watch-
travel yet.
Yeah, not yet, but that's gonna
They will.
inevitably happen
Inevitably,
in either the finale next week
I just want to
or season 2.
read some of the titles of the sci-fi movies from 1986.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Breeders, Invaders from Mars, The Clan of the Cave Bear,
Wait, what is this?
Terrorvision. These are just some of the titles of the 1986 sci-fi movies. Chopping Mall.
Chopping, like
Chopping Mall. Yeah, like chop.
That's pretty good. It's
Short
good
Circuit.
alliteration of words.
Maximum Overdrive. Space Camp. Howard the Duck.
Howard the Duck?
Wait. The Transformers, the movie?
Yes. Yes.
Wait,
the Boy Who Could Fly.
Are you sure Star Trek 4 came out in 1986, or are you just assuming because that's the year they traveled to?
No, it did because it's on this
Oh,
list.
okay.
Yeah. And I looked it up because Ravi was like, is this movie older than you? And I had to find out.
Because also at the beginning of the movie there is a dedication to the crew of Challenger, which
Yes.
also unfortunately had its accident same year,
Mm.
1986. So,
Mm.
anywho, Christian didn't like it. Let's move. Those were the three main movies that we decided to kind of cover. Three wildly different films.
Yes.
One which was a production nightmare, but ended up being a classic in my opinion, visually amazing. One that made Arjuna put a pillow up to the TV screen, that made Arjuna realize that cults are probably bad,
Mm.
though I would hope you thought that before. And then third and lastly is a classic sci-fi film that involved, environmental hippie stuff that Christian's completely against.
I'm not
Surprise,
against
surprise.
environmentalism.
Um,
The movie was bad. That's it.
But
That's all I'm saying.
100 episodes, I think that's really, really cool. To kind of wrap things up here for this, 100th episode, let's keep the Star Trek train rolling here. Bring it back to the present after Christian obviously watched a film that is now, holy shit, 34 years old?
Yes.
Damn! 34-year-old film. Anyway, we got Star Trek Lower Decks. Obviously, we were working on early this week, so we'll talk real quick. Episode 8, Episode 9. The season's done after this coming week. Christian, you immediately watched Lower Decks after Episode 9, after you watched the Star Trek
the
film.
irony is not lost on me that
Thank
they had
you.
that they had a film.
A film.
That they had a film in the holodeck.
Yep.
Which is great. And I don't know if you heard it because you might have been a little bit busy, but that film in the 23 minutes of I would have rather have watched that film, like a full-length version of that film, than the piece of crap that you guys.
Well, they're
forced me to make.
making fun of a lot of the J.J. Abrams stuff
Oh,
too
absolutely.
in that movie.
Well,
especially with the long glory shot of the Enterprise,
So-
the lens flares.
So hold on a second. With the ship, the shots of the Cerritos in the Lower Decks is also making fun of just the classic Star Trek films. Because what happens, Christian, at the end of Star Trek 4?
Oh yeah, they come up on the Enterprise.
They come up on the rebuilt Enterprise. There's a bunch of glory shots of the stupid ship.
and they're all like orgasming in the shuttle on the way to the new ship.
Yeah.
Because they're making jokes. They're like, "Oh, I hope it's not the," and I forget what ship they named.
And-
That thing's a punk in a
Well,
boat.
and it's the joke, right? Because the ship's already always heavily upgraded, and they have new weapons and new technologies that don't exist before. I was reading an article about there's a Star Trek movie that introduces terraforming on a whole planetary scale in one of the early Star Trek movies, and then obviously in the J.J. Abrams movies they introduced transwarp, where you can warp from anywhere on
Wait,
any
you talking about
planet.
the Genesis weapon?
The Genesis weapon, but then also in the new Star Trek J.J. Abrams movies, right? Remember they introduced transwarp really early, where
Wait a second.
transwarping you can
Warp while in
planet to planet onto a moving ship, or planet to planet. And in essence, you would never need a starship unless you need to explore new places.
So we have warp, transwarp, time warp.
But all those things are only available in the movies, which is that great joke that's made in the show where he's like, "How did you beam everybody off like that?" It's
a movie.
It's a movie. You
You
have
can do it.
a bigger budget.
You can make stuff up, which is great. But going back to Episode 8, Episode 9, still I think two very really good meta episodes where there's poking fun at Star Trek. It's still very much within that Rick and Morty wheelhouse of making fun of oneself and the silliness that people take way too seriously. Is there anything in particular you guys found that stuck out in either Episode 8 or Episode 9?
I liked that they were both the traditional genre episodes of Holodeck and Trial. Trial for last week, and then the Holodeck one for this week. I know they did a half Holodeck episode a few weeks ago with the weird AI thing. I was kind of hoping he was going to come back or sneak in to this one, but maybe that's for season 2.
Badgie?
Badgie, that's right. It was great. I really loved the cameo from the actor who played Q, being in Episode 8 doing the voice at the end. I thought that was nice. It's technically the first crossover that Lower Decks has now done with any of the other Star Trek properties. And, Q makes sense. He's this weird cosmic guy, and they really lean into him being the weird jester man.
Yeah.
So I
Trying
thought,
to play chess or something?
yeah, so I thought that was fun. And, I really like these episodes. I think both of them put the four main characters all together, which we haven't really had. And I think you got one of the, even though they got split up for most of, or parts of the episodes, I think it's really strong when you put that whole Lower Deck crew. I think they're beta or gamma team is what they're technically called, together. Just because I think it creates stronger episodes, which you saw these last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I enjoyed them a lot.
More than Star Trek 4, the whale one.
I enjoy Spider-Man 3 more
boy.
than I enjoy.
Spider-Man 3 is not a bad movie.
I agree with you.
It's actually good.
I can't go that far. It's entertaining. And
Really
it's
good.
far more entertaining than the piece of shit I was forced to watch from you heathens.
To kind of wrap this up officially, this 100th episode here, let's give a couple of theories for Lovecraft. We're not going to dive too much into episode 7 because in a couple days we got episode 8. I think recapping 7 real quick, the big one was we got motherfucking aliens.
Yeah, we finally got aliens.
We got a weird
and
time trans world something travel
Dimensions.
dimension
was
travel.
it dimensions? Like we don't
really know. But I mean, the big thing that I think a lot of people are trying to decipher is what the numbers meant.
I thought you had an idea.
My theory is their coordinates, because
Right.
that is the only thing that maybe makes sense to me.
Yeah,
But
Like,
it doesn't make sense either.
coordinates for location in space and time.
Yeah, that would be my
So
only theory.
on the 4 axes, the 4th dimension.
Sure.
Yeah, it's right here.
Yeah.
This coordinate.
If this is a line, and this is not, and then this.
Very scientific of you. Wow.
I don't know. I mean, Lovecraft Country has just been since day 1. It's been what? And
Really keeps you off balance.
yeah, very much off balance. I feel like similar to Watchmen, it's going to start coming together. It's going to start making sense. The questions are going to be answered finally. Having an episode that was primarily about Hippolyta was, I think, awesome
Yes.
because she is an interesting character. She is a genius, clearly. She, unlike I think most people, plucked out of like the 1950s and stuck into this weird sci-fi thing and then consciously moving through different bodies. Like, she holds her own. She gets it. She understands what's happening, which I think has been great. If I had to look ahead in terms of what's going to happen, who the fuck knows? Like, I think it's hard.
I mean, I think the biggest question for me coming out of the episode, and I still am confused by it and think about it, is, you know, she has that final scene kind of with the alien overlord at the end, and she's like, you could stay, and she's like, no, I gotta go home for my daughter. And then there's a flash, and we assume, okay, now Hippolyta's gonna come out of the portal. She doesn't come out of the portal. Tick comes out of the portal with the Lovecraft Country book by George Freeman, a.k.a. Uncle George, and there's no sign of Hippolyta at all. The only clue we get to her is under the cop that she shot is the comic that her daughter made, and the blue-haired space lady looks a lot like she did in her final destination, that when she went through the portal. So my question is, where is Hippolyta?
My theory is this: she's on her way. So and I think I said this as a joke after episode 1 or 2, that the end of this show is going to be very endgame, where you're going to have all these different factions who have learned things come together to defeat probably the wizards, right? So I think what happened is she's like, I'm going to go back to be with my daughter. She's going to arrive, I think, probably in the last couple of episodes to offer some kind of assistance, help. You know, a la Captain Marvel. Tick, I think, went on his own journey, and I think we're going to get flashbacks of that in the next episode. Like, he went through his own thing with the portal. We're going to see how he got that book. So I expect the next episode to be a little bit more of like a flashback episode.
I think the next one's not going to be flashback. I think it's going to be in the
Flash forward.
It's going to well, flash forward in the sense that I think he's going to end up in present day America. Like, he's in 2020 America.
You think that's where he is right now?
I think that's where he goes
Or
to.
ends up?
When he goes through that portal.
Oh.
That's where he goes.
Really?
I don't know why. Partly, I think it happens there because he comes back with a book.
Yeah.
The Lovecraft book.
He looks old.
And it looks like it's been around for a minute. And we know that Lovecraft as a book, you know, is by what's his face originally.
Well, yeah, the show's based off of a book called Lovecraft Country, but
Yeah.
a different author. Not H.P. Lovecraft, but another author is what the show is based off of.
Oh.
But it's not obviously George Freeman.
Yeah.
I don't know. I forget off the top of my head who the author is.
It's me.
It's not.
I wrote it.
Yeah.
I'm rich.
Either way, we'll see in a couple days where this is going. We've got
three episodes.
3 episodes left. I'm sure it's going to be a cluster, but it'll be definitely interesting, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is going to do it for us.
Wow.
100 episodes, guys.
100. I've never stuck with anything this long before.
That's
Besides school. And that's only because I had to. I didn't enjoy it, though. This I've enjoyed, about 50%.
You've enjoyed 50 of our episodes?
Yeah. The 50 that I said yes to.
I
Even
feel
though
like
it's a
there's
lot
more or
Yeah,
less.
it's a lot more.
Anyway, thank you for once again listening. Thank you for 100 episodes. It has definitely been interesting. It's been fun. We're gonna continue doing this until someone says, "Please, for the love of God, stop." And even then, we'll probably still do it because
Free country, bitch.
Exactly.
How many Avengers will there be by the time we get to 200 episodes?
Oh, don't even do that. Don't even do that.
Actually,
don't
if we
do that.
average once a week, 100 is just under 2 years. I'm gonna say 0.
Wow. Okay.
We'll probably get an Avengers movie in like 3 years.
Interesting.
Like on 201st episode is when the next Avengers movie will come
Avengers
out. We'll
5?
just miss it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Thank you again for listening, for watching. Once again, we stream this podcast live on twitch.tv/wasitgood. Feel free to jump in, be part of the conversation. We do have the Mandalorian series coming up shortly. That kicks off, I believe, October 30th. And there and around that time period, we will have fun giveaways week to week. Maybe some Mandalorian-related stuff, maybe some stuff from Season 2. So definitely make sure you follow along on Twitter as well at WasItGood, and on Instagram, WasItGoodBTM, to make sure that you're up to date for our giveaways and all that fun stuff.
Also, real quick, if you like art, check out the creativebazaar.com. They're having a cool live fair on November 7th where they'll have a lot of how-to stuff on everything from textiles to metalwork. So really cool. Definitely check it out.
Also, I have nothing to plug. This is the end of my sentence.
Goodbye.
Stop the records. We're still streaming.
Oh, why? I don't want to talk to anyone. Go away.
What? Season 2 Mando merch.
Yeah.
You know what's really fun? I hope.
We're
Wait,
still
I
streaming.
can't say this. Can I?
What are you going to say?
Can I say it?
Well, aren't you going to cut out on Twitch, or cut out Facebook and YouTube?
Oh, so we're just on Twitch? Nice.
Yeah.
Our videos save on Twitch now.
I know, but only for a couple